So, all right. I think let's start. I think it's 15 past. I don't know if we hear a gong here or not. So welcome to the seminar Digital Society, Ethical, Societal and Economic Challenges in the Age of Digital. As you can see, I'm not Professor Helbing, and he's very sorry that he cannot be here today. But he's doing the same thing, just not as a lecture, but in real, in Berlin today. The Projektgruppe Digitalisierung und Demokratie of the National Academy of Science in Germany are having a meeting today, and he's one of the co-leaders, so he cannot really not be there. So you have to put up with me somehow today. I hope I will not chase away too many people. He will be here next week, and he will do his introduction talk next week instead of today. So, my name is Marcus. I'm a postdoc at the chair of Professor Helbing, and I think I see a few familiar faces from last week. So who has been at BIOTS last week? Okay, a few people, great. Maybe we hear a bit more about that later on. I'm a postdoc. I'm working on different topics. You see a few of them mentioned there. I have a lecture which is called Digital Sustainability already for 10 or 12 years or something since my PhD. It's not running now, but hopefully again in autumn. So I'm kind of in this area of societal implications of digital technology already for quite some time. Dirk and I thought, let's start something new. It's the first time we're doing this seminar because we think the ETH is very strong in technologies, all kinds of technologies. And of course, with DGS, etc., there are also lectures in various areas around societal implications of technology. But we thought there's something missing that's dealing specifically with digital stuff. And as digital technology is more and more penetrating every aspect of our lives, there are more and more issues and points we should discuss coming up. So we thought it's warranted to start with a seminar where you also contribute, of course, by choosing topics and presenting them to your colleagues. But I will come to that in a minute. Also, the all administrative stuff I will do later on. I usually don't start with the boring stuff if I can avoid it. So let me try, because we're in a multimedia, and don't be offended. I didn't find something with a guy, so if one of the ladies finds a video of a guy showing basically the same thing, let me know. It's all about trust. Let's see this for 2 minutes. I hope there's sound. Oh, sorry, it's me. What can we trust? And that's old. That's 2011. Let me go back. No. What's happening? Sorry, something is not working. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm here. And the other one was even before that, 2006, which is basically the same thing, just a bit more tame. But it's photos we see every day. Now it's 10 years later. We can do that live in video.
Putin is a very interesting example. He never smiles. You can make him smile. But if you had a better sequence of him, right, where he did smile, then it would look more like him. Now it looks more like me in a sense. I think people think, you can manipulate images but not videos. That's not true. I mean, that's just not true.
And that's just an example of what we can do with digital technology and how that can affect not only the pure information that's published and consumed by a target audience, but also the meaning of things. You can manipulate a lot of things. I wanted to also insert a third slide about audio, but it seems that project from Adobe 2 years ago, it was called Adobe Voco, VOCO, and it was something like an audio editor. You could just take a piece of audio, it extracted the words, and you could just write new words and make the person say anything. So it's real, this technology is there, and we have to deal with it somehow, just because it's there and people are using it for good or for bad. I'm going through a few examples for different areas and topics, just to show you a glimpse of what's there and what topics are there we can discuss through the whole seminar. Because, see, this was research, and people tried to figure out how can we do that. But of course, as soon as you have technology that is easy to use, people do stuff with it. And they, instead of copy-pasting photos and putting a different face to a different body, they can do it with video. And it's getting easier. And maybe you have heard about these terms before, but they reach a whole new level of possibilities. And I mean, try to prove that certain videos are not you, and I'm not talking about being naked on the video. It doesn't matter. Politicians that have an interview and are sure they didn't say something specific, or they did and it wasn't shown there, or it's different. A lot of manipulation can happen, and the question is, how can we prevent that? Because probably we do not want that as a society. But the technology is there, it's more and more easy to use and available for larger groups of people, and it won't be used only for good things. So the question is in the room that, so AI is a technology that has a fantastic potential, can do a lot of interesting and good things. And the funny thing about AI is, in most cases, we don't really know why it's working so well. And therefore the question is, are we using this? I mean, for real? Are we giving AI the potential to not only analyze big data sets and recommend decisions, but also maybe do decision-making real time without us knowing exactly why it has been decided this way, just because the data amount is just so huge and we cannot really, because of how the technology works, cannot really track how it's coming up with the decisions or with the results it makes. So should artificial intelligence be legally required to explain itself? I'm showing a few videos today. That's another one.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now, that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available today. We have a distribution network taking orders from military, law enforcement, and specialist clients.
The nation is still recovering from yesterday's incident, which officials are describing as some kind of automated attack, which killed 11 U.S. senators at the Capitol building.
They flew in from everywhere but attacked just one side of the aisle. It was chaos. People were screaming.
You can see high windows, very small, precisely punctured to gain entry to the building.
What did you do for the victim?
I just did what I could for him. Things weren't even interested in me. They're just buzzing.
Government sources admit the intelligence community has no idea who perpetrated the attack, nor whether it was a state, group, or even a single individual.
So if we can't defend ourselves, then we strike back.
We are investing very heavily in classified defense projects.
We make it our deterrent like our nuclear deterrent. We stockpile in the millions, the billions.
At key facilities, the White House, the New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street.
Safe in their homes.
Well, we wish we had boots on the ground in every community in this country, but we don't. So our instructions,
Ollie?
our suggestions are to stay in touch with
Ollie, oh, hi. Hi, Ollie, honey. How's Edinburgh today? How are all your studies going, huh?
Good. Great.
Oh, great. Hey, aren't we doing a video call today?
I'm kind of with people, so...
Oh, well, come on, Oliver, put her on.
Oh, no, it's not like that. No, wait.
Oh, well, listen. I see some photos here with somebody, and I can see lots of likes, and what's that all about? Oh, wait a minute here, and on your
Mom, she's on the spy stuff in the military?
What is this video right here? Oh, no, I'm not going to click on that.
It's just this, human rights thing about oppression or whatever.
Honey, you're not going into politics, are you? I mean,
Okay,
no
Mom.
protest march.
Safe here, just like you said it would be.
Heavy traffic approaching the A720 this morning due to police...
Police are not saying this morning what prompted the alert.
Claim relaxing firearm legislation would be useless against the so-called slaughter bots.
Is to stay away from crowds. When indoors, keep windows covered with shutters.
Protect your family. Stay inside.
Oliver, can you hear me? Listen to me.
I can hear it. I can hear it, Mom.
Yes, it's close.
Authorities are still struggling to make sense of an attack on university campuses worldwide, which targeted some students and not others. The search for a motive is apparently turning to social media, and a video shared by the victims exposing corruption at the high...
But it's far from surprising. The weapons took away the expense, danger, and risk of waging war. And now we can't afford to challenge anyone, really. It's not even the smallest fringe group or a crank.
Who could have done this?
Anyone.
Dumb weapons drop where you point them. Smart weapons consume data. When you can find your enemy using data, even by a hashtag, you can target an evil ideology right where it starts.
Who has seen this video before? A few people. What do people think? How much of that is possible today? And how much of it is just like science fiction? Any suggestion? Maybe an example of something that's not possible, or something we are sure is possible, of the many different aspects of it, probably. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other comments, please? Mm. Mm-hmm. Somebody else?
I think it's in between 95% possible.
95% possible, okay, a quantitative answer. So the video, as you can see, is not yet finished.
This short film is more than just speculation. It shows the results of integrating and miniaturizing technologies that we already have. I'm Stuart Russell, a professor of computer science at Berkeley. I've worked in AI for more than 35 years. Its potential to benefit humanity is enormous, even in defense. But allowing machines to choose to kill humans will be devastating to our security and freedom. Thousands of my fellow researchers agree. We have an opportunity to prevent the future you just saw, but the window to act is closing fast.
So enough of AI for the moment and autonomous systems. Who of you uses Facebook? Hands up. Or who doesn't? Who doesn't? Not so much activity. Oh, it's okay, one person. Who does not use Twitter? Okay. Okay. So, to everybody else, maybe you want to try this. Facebook and Twitter prediction. You connect your Facebook profile and you connect your Twitter profile. And this tool predicts your psychodemographic profile from digital footprints of your behavior. It reveals how you might be perceived by others online and provide detailed insights on your personality, intelligence, life satisfaction, and more. Predictions are based on opt-in psychological ground truth from over 6 million volunteers, and our data has been used in over 45 billion scientific articles. So, who would try it? Okay. Other people also said they tried it? No? I thought there were hands showing. Would it make, for your decision whether you participate in this or not, let's assume it works. Let's assume it works somehow, and that would mean you have a certain interest to see what your communications actually reveal. What difference would it make who the organization is behind that? So the website is called Apply Magic Sauce, which is not, I mean, it's a .com website, but it could be anything. So there's a post-it. And below that is the name of the organization doing this. So would it make a difference for you to do that test or prediction or not, depending on who is under that post-it? Yes? So in which cases would you say, yeah, maybe I do it, and in which cases you would say no? Open source, okay. You can see the code, all right. Although maybe the code is actually not too impressive, it's more the data, the vast amount of data, but nevertheless, yes, transparency. Other thoughts? Mm-hmm. So from your answer, I gather that you would give the first group of organizations, you mentioned Google and Facebook as examples of large organizations and others, you would give the first group more credibility or more, you trust them more. That's interesting. So you can decide for yourself whether it's a dangerous organization or not. It's the University of Cambridge. And yeah, I guess they're right when they claim they have 6 million volunteers. And show us your profile if you do it next time, if you want to. The Internet of Things. So many people are talking about this, and here I think what I like about this illustration is it tries to show the whole gamut of applications and domains. This technology, sensor networks can be used from retail to consumer, healthcare, transportation, obviously the whole supply chain tracking of products, stuff you have at home. You talk to your whatever machine it is called in today, from your washing machine to your home entertainment system. And it's just, a lot of things are possible. And there are also people who think critically and talk critically about it. One of them is Jeroen van der Hoven. You will hear his name a few times during the seminar, because he also wrote a book about ethics in the digital era. And this is just a list. I just gave you this list from a paper. He's part of an ethics IoT work group for the European Commission, and it's a whole text. You can read the whole few pages paper, but he just listed a few aspects of why he thinks there are ethical implications in the whole IoT world. So the first one is also the one you can see here. It's just pervasive. It's everywhere. Oh, I'm sorry. IoT, when it's fully deployed, this is basically everywhere. You can connect all kinds of machines and all kinds of gadgets. It's becoming smaller and smaller for energy reasons, for cost reasons, for comfort reasons. And from one point on, you're not sure anymore, is there something in it or not? It's about identification. Are you moving around anonymously or not? It's always on, because then it's most useful, or it will be most useful when it's always on. And over time, of course, the efforts to integrate different technologies is there, and all the different companies want you to use their products and be able to also use it all the time in all circumstances. And of course, it's collecting data. So that's also an area we were looking at during the seminar. And then there's something rather new or newish. Who has heard about, or who has not heard about blockchain up till now? A few people, okay. So just 2 or 3 sentences. Blockchain technology is the technologies that's underlying Bitcoin, and I'm sure you have heard about Bitcoin, this cryptocurrency. And this blockchain technology is basically a distributed database that is immutable, that cannot be changed after a transaction has been written to it. It can only be changed through a sophisticated consensus mechanism among the whole network. And that allows for completely new ways of of doing transactions across networks that were not able in this way before. Because usually you needed a trusted third party in the middle. In the case of Bitcoin and money, it would be a bank. In case of other transactions, it would be other players, like, for example, in legal processes or legal transactions, you would need a lawyer or a notary service, etc. And because of the immutable technical impossibility to change the database just like in the normal way, somebody who has access to it just changes a number somewhere, is not possible. It's protected through cryptographic methods. And the easiest, quote unquote, easiest application is to create a cryptocurrency. You just define bit streams or bit strings, and you don't allow that they can be copied. And so you create something digital that is scarce at the same time, which is rather unusual. And usually the problem is that it's not scarce. And but in the blockchain case, it is. And yeah, of course, the first application was Bitcoin and a lot of other cryptocurrencies. But you can do a lot more with it. I would just to not go too deep into that, because you will be able to read up about it as well. It has, even if you only go for the cryptocurrency thing, interesting things are happening, and this is, I guess not fake news. Venezuela, a country that really suffers economically and has quite large problems, invited all the OPEC countries to jointly develop an oil-backed crypto platform. Now you could say, so what? I mean, today it's backed by the US dollar. And if there's one resource all the countries in the world really need, it's oil. And that could make a difference. So we don't know what's happening. I saw that in another few days later that they already found, the country already found a sponsor, or several sponsoring investors who help finance the building of that platform. So let's watch that space. There's another article by a business insight company, research company, and 1.5 years or nearly 2 years when I did my first presentation about blockchain, I had that, and it said something about 25. Then half a year later, I did again this presentation. I checked it, and it said something like 28, and now it's 36. So it's an interesting technology. It has a lot of potential, and it has a lot of potential to change some fundamental ways of how processes work in very different industries. So have a look at. You will get the slides, of course, and all the links. Have a look. Then again, just to give a counter position, there's an interesting article on, I think it's Medium, Hacker Noon, sorry, of a guy also from the space my Bitcoin is already nearly 10 years old, so it's hard to believe, but it's true. And he says nothing is really working, people are doing prototypes, and it's not really there. Yeah, Bitcoin is there, but nothing else. Let's see. And other people are comparing this technology with the internet as it was in the first few years. The word open source was already mentioned earlier. For those who are not too familiar with it or the history of it, and that's also a part of my lecture, the Digital Sustainability Lecture. This guy is called Richard Stallman. He's quite old now, but so that's a book about him and his, well, it's quite military term, crusade for free software. So free software is this idea that software should not belong to somebody, but that it's something like a public good, it should be shared. And the argument is, because it's digital, nobody loses if you share it. It's the same thing with the argumentation about music files, but here it's about software. And it started in '85. It's really old. And hardly, and that's a bit of a pity, I personally think. But so it started, and he started it in '85. He created the Free Software Foundation as an organization to push this idea forward. He created a few copyright licenses that enshrined these basic ideas of the software should be freely available, and you should be able to share it and modify it and distribute it. And that organization laid a lot of groundwork until in the beginning of the 90s, the Linux system got into existence. And from that, a lot of things developed. So who of you has heard about Creative Commons, that term? Can you tell me where and in which contexts you have heard about Creative Commons? Have you used something or done something with it, or just read about it? Can somebody share something, please?
I wanted to add a picture to a presentation. It was under one of the Creative Commons licenses. I didn't read it to the end, but I think I had to quote the author, and then I could use the picture as much as I wanted.
Yeah. Okay, so exactly. Creative Commons is a system or a family of copyright licenses that were inspired by the free software. So this license here is called the GPL, the GNU Public License. The GNU Public License, and it says, yeah, the software can be modified, you're allowed to modify it, you're allowed to distribute, you're allowed to do basically everything you're normally not allowed to do. And Creative Commons came from a little bit from a different angle. They said, well, there's so much stuff on the internet, people just putting stuff on the internet, and it's not clear what you can do with it and what's allowed, what's not allowed. So we give you a set of licenses. If you upload a text, a video, or photos, you can decide what people should be able to do with it, copy them, not copy them, use them for commercial usage, or redistribute them, etc. And you will learn a bit more about it because we are also going to use Creative Commons license in the seminar because we want to hopefully publish something from your contributions. Let's see. And of course, everybody knows Wikipedia, I guess. In the beginning, Wikipedia was using a license from that free software movement, not about software, but about documentation, about text. And later on, when Creative Commons was established, and this was done by a group of lawyers, so people thought, yeah, it's really good, and they switched to a Creative Commons license. But the idea to share content freely and legally came from here and moved all the way to something like Wikipedia, and you know how large Wikipedia is and how fast it grew in 10 years, 15 years. That was the start. Other movements that had open in their names were also developing based on these ideas. One I was involved in quite heavily before going back to academia and research was the open data or open government data movement. Here's just a screenshot of the open data barometer of the Web Foundation. And it's the same thing as open source software, just with data. And it started in the public sector, in the government sector. The argument goes, well, government, to manage and organize the society or the city or any community, uses data of all kinds. Yeah? Of course, data about people, but also many, many other types of data, infrastructural data, or data on infrastructure. And it's paid. It's paid by tax money. It's there. And it is not used beyond what the administration needs it for. So why not publish everything, make it available, and then people, startups, all kinds of companies, individuals, non-profits, just communities, hacking communities, can use this data and do useful things with it. A very easy example, a city usually has a list of all the restaurants in the city because the restaurants need a license because they sell food, it has to be hygienic, etc., etc. So they have to fulfill a few rules and that's checked by the city and they have a list of all these restaurants. So why not just publish that list? So you can publish the name of the restaurant, the address where the restaurant is, maybe contact information like phone numbers and email addresses, etc. You could also publish the hygiene ratings If there are regular ratings, you could publish that as well, and there are projects doing this. And with this data, anyone who is able to program and process data could, for example, create a mobile app that's simply a Gastroführer for Zurich, based on the data of the city. And you can think of any other data set the city may have that is useful in that sense. So that's the open data movement, and it also goes against the still quite mainstream idea of digital assets belong to somebody and you are not allowed to do anything with it. In the academia, specifically in research, I don't know how many of you have been involved in research article writing so far. Probably not too many, maybe a few of them had some first experiences. So the thing here is the scientific community writes the papers because they want to publish their research results. They give their results to a publisher. It gets peer-reviewed. Well, actually, sorry. It gets peer-reviewed from the same community, just not from the same people, but from other people in the community who are knowledgeable about the subject. So there's a quality control. And neither the authors nor the people in the review boards are getting any compensation for that. It's done for free. Then this whole material, including the transfer of copyrights, goes to these publishers. So they get high quality content for free, quality proven. They publish it in a PDF, or sometimes they also produce paper and sell it to whom? The same people. And with the rise of digital technology, more and more researchers are thinking that's kind of odd. It's a great business model for a publisher, but it doesn't make much sense for everybody else, especially because the market is not, it's not the same as the car market, where you would like to buy a very expensive limousine from a German manufacturer and you cannot afford it, and you say, I cannot afford it, so I buy something cheaper, and you buy something else. Here, the market of journals, academic journals, is a pyramid. Everybody wants to be in the best journals because it's all ranked and measured and there are metrics. So everybody wants to go here. And it's just not a substitute to just go to another journal. Of course, people do that, but everybody tries to go here. And so the price of the journal and the demand are not related. The market doesn't play. And the counter movement is called open access publishing, and it has a few interesting ideas. I'm not going into that now. It has a few interesting ideas of how that sharing of scientific results and knowledge could be handled different in the 21st century. That's a very different thing. You don't even see digital here, maybe cyber attacks. What's that? That's the global risk map of the World Economic Forum. It just took place a few weeks ago. You've heard. A few important people were there. And so every year the WEF is producing such a risk map. And I think they're doing really good research in that area. So it's the same information, it's just presented differently. The left side shows you dependencies or I don't dare to say causal links, but let's say correlation links. And the right is a rating, because they just survey managers and government officials about what they think are the risks in the world according to likelihood and impact. And it's interesting. Oh, actually, I forgot to give the different colors, but you can figure it out. I think the blue one is something around finance. Red is livelihood, like water and food and stuff, and green is nature. And the question is why I'm showing this here. I'm showing this here because these are the real problems we are having. Of course, we have all the garbage that's on the internet, and we have to work on that And all I presented up till now is also a problem. But at the end, these are the large problems our societies are facing. And the question is, how can we use digital technology to address these? And how? So last week's blockchain and IoT school we were running here at ETH with some 220 plus students from ETH and also from abroad were exactly working on this, thinking about how can this blockchain technology and IoT help in, so we were focusing kind of on the sustainability agenda more than on other things. But keep that in mind, we're trying to solve real problems, it's real people, even if everybody's on the internet. How much time do we have? Maybe I'm showing a few minutes of, who knows Jeremy Rifkin? Have you heard of this person? You definitely should, well, maybe listen to one or two of his talks on YouTube, because it's a really interesting guy. He wrote, every few years he writes an interesting book. The last one is called The Third Industrial Revolution. And here he's talking to the European Commission, respectively to the Commission of the European Regions. And just to give you a few impressions, how to link IT and real problems.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So let's get down to the bottom line here. GDP is slowing everywhere in the world right now. It has been for quite a while. And the reason is productivity has been declining for 20 years all over the world. And the result is we've got a lot of unemployment, especially among the millennial generation desperately trying to find their place in a 21st century workforce. Our economists are now projecting 20 more years of low productivity and slow growth. And now this economic crisis, which is structural, is giving rise to a much more profound crisis. We are now in real-time climate change. After 2 industrial revolutions, we've spewed massive amounts of CO2 and methane and nitrous oxide into this planet's atmosphere, and we now have the water cycles on the planet in an exponential runaway curve from climate change. Our ecosystems are collapsing. And our scientists are telling us we are now in the 6th extinction event of life on this planet. We've had 5 extinction events before we were ever here, human beings, but this one is quite interesting because our scientists are telling us that we may lose up to half the species of life on Earth in the next 8 decades. The last time this happened was 65 million years ago, but then it took thousands of years for an extinction event. We're talking about the next 7 decades. We are asleep. This is a wake-up call. This is about our survival. So we need to step back and take a look at how we create a new economic vision for the world. It better be compelling. We need a game plan to deliver on that vision. It needs to be quick. It needs to move in the developing countries. It needs to move in the industrialized countries. And it has to move in every city and every region. We have to be off carbon, this civilization, in less than 4 decades if we have any chance of avoiding the abyss. So we need to ask how the great economic revolutions in history occur. If we know how they occur, here at the Committee of the Regions, we're going to get a roadmap. We're going to get a compass, and how every region and city in this room can navigate a new journey for its people. There have been at least 7 major economic paradigm shifts in history. They're very interesting. They share a common denominator that at a moment of time, 3 defining technologies emerged and converged to create what we call in engineering a general purpose technology platform, an infrastructure that fundamentally changes the way we manage, power, and move economic life. Number 1, new communication technologies to more efficiently manage the economic activity, rather obvious. Number 2, new sources of energy to more efficiently power the economic activity, also obvious. And number 3, new modes of mobility to more efficiently move the economic activity, obvious. So when communication revolutions join with new sources of energy and new modes of mobility, it changes the way civilization manages, powers, and moves its economic life. First industrial revolution, Britain, convergence of communication, energy, and transport, steam power printing, the telegraph, converge with a new energy source, cheap coal. The steam engine is invented to harvest the coal, and then they put the steam engine on rails for locomotives. Communication, energy, and transport, managed power and move Britain. Second industrial revolution in the United States, 20th century. Again, communication, energy, and transport, centralized electricity, the telephone, later radio and television. Those communication technologies converge with a new source of energy, cheap Texas oil. Then Henry Ford put everyone on the road, cars, buses, and trucks. The second industrial revolution took us through the 20th century, and it peaked in July 2008, when Brent crude oil hit $147 a barrel, a record price. If you remember that month, July 2008, the entire global economy shut down, and that was the economic earthquake. The collapse of the financial market 60 days later was the aftershock, because the entire civilization runs on carbon, fertilizers, pesticides, construction materials, pharmaceutical products, synthetic fiber, power, transport, heat, and light. We are clearly in the sunset of the second industrial revolution. And Citigroup reported last year that there's now $100 trillion in stranded assets in the fossil fuel industry, the biggest bubble in history right now. We are on the cusp of a third industrial revolution, a smart industrial revolution. The communication internet is now matured. Everyone here has a smartphone. Half the human race is connected this morning. This communication internet that's digitalized is now converging with a nascent, digitalized, renewable energy internet, so millions of people, and soon billions of people, can produce their own solar, wind, and other renewable energy where they live, where they work, share it offline, or sell it back on a continental energy internet. And now this communication and energy internet that are digitalized are converging with a digitalized, automated GPS, and within 5 or 6 years, driverless road, rail, water, and air internet to create 3 internets to manage, power, and move the 21st century. This is a smart third industrial revolution. These 3 internets, they ride on top of a platform called the Internet of Things. We're attaching sensors to all of our machines so they can create data and then send that data to the communication, energy, and transport infrastructure. Agricultural fields, and there are sensors in the factories and smart homes and smart businesses and smart warehouses, smart vehicles. They're sending data back. We are connecting everything with everyone in a digital, smart society. This is the infrastructure of the third industrial revolution. And what this infrastructure allows us to do, is all of our businesses, our communities, we can dramatically increase our aggregate efficiencies, dramatically spike our productivity, dramatically reduce our ecological footprint, and reduce our marginal cost to create a very streamlined capitalist market in the 21st century with broad social entrepreneurialism and networks, and help create a sharing economy alongside this new streamlined digital capitalist market. So then the question becomes, where do we go from here? Today, and this is an important day, it's been 17 years since we began this journey here in the European Union. Today, the European Commission has joined with the Committee of the Regions to launch Smart Europe, a third industrial revolution, a digital revolution. And we now have this morning here 3 flagship regions. You know, talk is talk, but you have to walk the walk.
Okay,
Does this work from theory to practice? We now have 3 regions that will...
Let me stop here. So what I like about Jeremy Rifkin in general is he's able to convey quite complex, or to reduce complex information to a rather simple set of messages that are consistent and logical and make people not only think but usually also nod. So have a look at the rest of this short intervention, and I think it's also rhetorically interesting how an expert like him uses 15 minutes to talk to governments, basically. Linking the digital world and all these technologies we have to the real world, and how we do it and for what the left side, maybe you have seen this. These are the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And on the right side, I created a Wordle from the different topics we like to discuss with you during this seminar. And of course, as I just said, it's the link between these two. How are we using this technology to push these goals forward and not do funny other stuff? Last thing, and then there's a small break. I'm doing research, and the research we're doing is captured in a project called Future ICT 2.0. And it's exactly about how ICT can be used for a sustainable future. And so here you have 3 lines of buzzwords. But what we're trying to do is to address market irregularities called externalities by using IoT and blockchain technology and identify them, quantify them, and make them tradable on marketplaces. Maybe half of the sentence you didn't understand. It's not so important at the moment. Just to let you know that if you're interested in this area, we are of course interested in having people work with us on the research area and master thesis, etc. Maybe if you have time during the semester, I can share a bit more about this project. But suffice it to say now that it's one of the projects that really tries to put ICT into the to serve society, and we're using quite modern technology for that. So now the question is, that would be the content part of my introduction, and the second, probably only 30 minutes or something, will be more about how are we spending the time together. Now the question is, it's 4:10. If you prefer, I just continue and we end earlier and can also discuss your questions afterwards, or we have a small break. So who's in favor of having a break? Oh, not too many? Then I just continue. All right, great. So yeah, that was an introduction to give you a glimpse of the different topics. There are many more, or several more, and you will see them in a minute. But just to give you an idea, what the topics are we are working on. So in general, the goals of this seminar are to address ethical challenges coming along with new digital technologies. Here's a list, but I will show you a more comprehensive list in a minute. And the goal for you, or from us for you, is to understand that any of these technologies implies not only opportunities, but also risks. I hope I could convey this message in the first half of today's session, and that it's important to understand what the challenges or what the opportunities and risks are to be able to design technology in a way that encapsulates values we want to uphold also when we go digital. So the terminus technicus here is value-sensitive design, and you will hear more about this as we move on. And also that it's, of course, not trivial to design for values. It's rather comparably, quote-unquote, easy to define a technology for your company to earn money, to sell a product or a service. You figure out what the needs are of people, and you try to optimize your offering towards that. And a few of the companies who have been mentioned are quite successful in doing this. They offer stuff for free online, and millions of people are using their services. And on first sight, it's quite nice business model. You get stuff for free. You can do a lot of things you couldn't do before, but it has also its drawbacks, obviously, and we want to look at these as well, because my hypothesis would be that most of these services are not designed for values. So very concretely, you choose a topic, and I show you a list in a minute. You can also propose your own, but I think we covered quite a broad spectrum, so maybe it's not necessary, but we'll see. You can come up with your proposals. The goal is to teach your audience, because so you will do a presentation, and the goal is to teach your audience about this topic. So you would also need to explain some of the technology. You don't have to go into detail, but usually any new technology has some particularities which make it new and interesting, and you have to somehow present that in a few minutes. So people understand where you're coming from, and then you can talk about the different implications of that technology. So for that, you also will have to read some of the literature. We have a few suggestions to start, but of course the idea is also that you work and do your own research, and it's driven by your interests as well. We can only give a framework and a general guidance. You provide a discussion on that and highlight some of the problems. This is a rough, generic flow of questions your presentation should cover. I'm not going into details right now because we can talk about this if you have questions later on. That's just to give you an idea of how to structure your presentation. We decided that the deliverable of the seminar is, in fact, basically a presentation. In the standard case, it would be a slide deck, and you just present slides, but you can do all kinds of things. You can do stuff with photos, you can do videos, you can be interactive, and it's appreciated if you're interactive in your 15 minutes. So one part of it, you're standing here, presenting your topic in everybody knows TED, I guess, these TED Talks. So you have 15 minutes, try to engage people, inform them, and make them reflect on a topic. That's the challenge. We also would like you to submit some file, because we will record that, and I will talk about this in a minute, but it would also be nice to have some file that represents your presentation somehow. Already today we are recording this, but don't worry too much. It only shows the slides and the audio. It doesn't show your faces. So when you will see this video later on, you will only see the slides and hear my voice in the back. And the same will be for your presentation. Nevertheless, it's necessary that you're okay with this, because we want to publish that afterwards, all these presentations, because we think it's important to have that. I mean, if you do this, if you spend so much time researching a specific topic, it's really useful for other people. It saves them a lot of time. Maybe you spend, I say, a few dozen hours on presenting and compressing your new gained knowledge in 15 minutes, and somebody is watching this for 15 minutes, saved several hours. So it's really useful. And we hope it's also a bit of motivation for you to know that that stuff could be seen by other people later on, even if they don't see your face. It's good practice to put your name on the first slide, you know that. And you should be doing this because, I don't know, does anyone have a YouTube channel running? Well, you may start now. And we want to publish it in an open way so people can really use the material and work with it. After your 15 minutes, there will be a 10 minutes Q&A. We will learn how to use these fancy thingies here. It's off. Okay, next time I will figure out how that works. These are microphones, and so that your questions and discussions are also on the tape. You will need to press these buttons. This is the list of potential topics, and I will also show you a link later on where it's not only these 12 topics, but several links to articles and videos and stuff I was just showing you in the beginning. For all of these, several ones. Some we have a lot of materials. For some we don't have so much, but just to give you a head start, so you can choose something and read and make up your mind. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, cognitive computing is an area we think is important and should be looked at. Autonomous systems, and that can be anything. An autonomous system can drive, it could fly, could swim, could be in space, drones, all these kinds of things, self-driving cars, everything is in autonomous systems. Big data, forget about the surveillance, that's just one of the applications areas, but big data analytics is an organization collecting a lot of data. Today, that's very often personal data about people, and use them and analyze it, and based on these analytics, gain new knowledge. Maybe you have heard there are stories that during the US elections, a company called Cambridge Analytica was supposed to analyze several million citizens in the US and help the election committee, the parties to figure out whom of the population to address with what type of message using social media. So Cambridge Analytica could be an interesting starting point to look into this. Blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology, which is also a word used in that space, is something that is very much hyped in the form of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies today. But I'd say the more interesting part is the even more interesting part is everything that is not a currency, because you can do so much more. Digital democracy or digital society or the governance of us all in the digital world is another area we want to look at. With the help of technology, you can improve election systems, you can improve how people identify themselves, but you can also influence people using modern technology much more than you could just a few decades ago. Digital sustainability is the term I coined for my lecture 10 years ago. It's about the sustainable use of digital goods. It started off with the free software movement, went through these different application areas, Wikipedia, open data, open access, etc. And I think your first answer to one of my questions was, well, if it's open source, I would trust it more. Because it's transparent. And think about the question of open technology is everywhere. It's basically everywhere. So I thought it's really important to also have it here so people can, if they're interested, go into that a bit deeper and figure out the general idea and then maybe apply it to one or two of the others. Genetic engineering, bioenhancement. Maybe you have read about people putting USB keys somewhere or RFID chip in under their skin to use it. There's a whole community working on these things. So it's also a topic. The Internet of Things we heard about. The whole area of how our personal data, personal sovereignty and identity is created and maintained in the digital world is also interesting. Maybe 2 years ago, I experimented a little bit with Tor. Tor is an anonymous network. You need a special client software, and you have fancy addresses, which are basically hex codes or hash codes. So the darknet is where you can have access to. So I was visiting websites where you could buy passports of European countries for several €100. That's identity, isn't it? You send in your photo. I mean, it's quite good service. It's better and faster than most governments usually do in issuing passports. You just pay a few hundred. You pick your country, you upload the photo, and you pay. And you get the passport sent by mail. I didn't do it, I'm just telling you. The website was there and it would have been possible to do it. There's a whole other notion of identity, and we had a presentation last week at the end of last week's Bayard seminar, the talk about self-sovereign identity. Just think for a moment. A refugee, you pick any country, a refugee arrives here, and the person doesn't have a passport for whatever reason. He or she lost it on the boat across the Mediterranean Sea. They never had one. On the way, one of the people organizing these transports were taking them. A million reasons for not having this. And now you're here and you have to prove that you are coming from a country that you are eligible to ask for asylum. How hard is it? You cannot go back to your government and ask for a new passport. Maybe you can, but maybe the government isn't there, or it doesn't work, or it will outright refuse, etc., etc. So how do you do that? At the same time, these people, and let's for the sake of the example assume these are young people. These young people have Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and whatnot, other social media accounts, 10 years or more. Think about, if you take, let's assume you're on 3 or 5 different social media networks, and let's assume it's all of them 10 years. How strong would you prove that you are you be based on the history of 10 years of 4 different social media networks? I would say it's quite a strong proof. And in addition, you could say other people vouch for you and say, hey, I'm yes, it's true, this is really your account. And independent people, I mean, sort of independent people would prove that. And you can use blockchain technology to also actually do this. So think about it. The identity today is not something that belongs to you. It's not something you have. You have a passport and it's not even your property. It's the property of the state. If for whatever reason the state doesn't want you to have the passport, you don't have it. It's not the biggest problem in Switzerland, but it's not everywhere Switzerland. So this whole idea of changing how you prove identity has a lot of interesting ramifications. Persuasive technology is, I don't know how old the term is, but it's not very old, is a term for all kinds of technologies that are used by various platforms to persuade people to do stuff. To click a like, to upload a video, to watch something, to comment something, to reveal something about your personal preferences. And they do all kinds of tricks. And all the platforms have been mentioned already that try to do this. And it's a whole, a huge area basically. And I think we should look into these technologies as well and understand them better. Then, again, with Jeremy Rifkin's presentation and also the risk map I showed, let's also bring in this idea of ecological sustainability and the Earth limits and the real problems ranging from climate change to migration we have, and the role technology can play there. Or if, in fact, existing technologies working against some of these goals we have or should have as a global society. The links between the real problems we have and technology. And the last one, virtual reality, augmented reality. So the idea that you enhance your perception, visual or tactile or whatnot, through technology to enable you to do things you couldn't do without. You could simulate certain activities you cannot just do in the real world. You can enhance your senses and stuff like that. Very much used in gaming, but also for other real life applications. And so it's not that obviously we are on the list. We are fully booked. It should be 35 people. I see we are not 35, but let's see how many how many will be sticking around. And it's not the case, obviously, that we have only one presentation per area. It's so much material, so many things and examples and projects going on. It's easy to accommodate several groups in one. So that's the draft idea of the time plan. And I'm pretty aware of the first group presenting already in 2 weeks. And that's always a challenge to organize something where people are interactively involved for the whole time. The order of the topics is not completely random, but it's also not like set in stone. I'd rather thought, because I have to assume 35 presentations will take place because 35 people are registered. Probably we will not be so many, but at the moment there's even a waiting list of 4 or 5 people. That means dividing 10 sessions by so many people gives 25 minutes per person, which means 15 presentation, 10 Q&A. And because that doesn't really fit into 90 minutes nicely, we will have a few weeks of 3 presentations to give most of the people more time, and have 4 presentations in the second half or last trimester, if you want, last third of the presentation. And why I put these topics here and not there or the other way around is I thought there's much to talk about here, so there are 4 groups and people can really dig into this, and here maybe it's not so much of a topic yet, or it's more difficult to dig much deeper. But we can all talk about this. That's the proposal for the moment. So you have a rough idea, if you're interested in a certain topic, approximately when your presentation would be. We will create the detailed plan together on a shared Google Sheet, where you can put your name into a certain slot. I will share all this information in the slides and tonight by email. And what I wanted to say is, so if people have 2 weeks' time, it makes a difference to people having 8 weeks' time, obviously. And we take care, I mean, we acknowledge that, and we understand that it's just different if you decide like 2 days from now you take topic X and you go there and are ready to present something on the 5th of March. You only had 10 days, no matter what. And we acknowledge that, and we will, or put it the other way around, we will expect a bit more towards, I mean, the more time you have, obviously the more time you have, and the more it should be seen in the depth and the presentation later on. But don't get too much worried about it. It's still a DGS lecture, we understand that as well. But I mean, it's for you, it's something we offer to you. Select a topic that's interesting for you. Decide whether you want to do it soon and be done with it, because then it also means you're done with it and you can just relax and sit down and listen to all the other presentations for the rest of the semester, and then can dedicate your time to other things. And if you say, no, I really want to do more deeply something with a topic because later on, no master thesis or whatnot, you can also do that. And if it turns out that some of the topics here will be presented here or the other way around, we have some flexibility. It just has to happen. I can also not see into the future. We'll see. But what's sure, I hope, is that Dirk Helbing will be here next week, and he will do his talk next week. And yeah, I will tell you in a minute what discussion I got means. So, researching material is one of the tasks of the seminar, of course, and there are many sources. You can go from scientific journals to non-academic sources like blog posts, websites, maybe popular books, etc., and all kinds of things. That's great because there's a lot of material out there. It's a bit of a challenge because you have to decide what you take and what you don't take. So some of the blog posts may be quite attractive to use, but maybe their the quality of the information is maybe not as high as a scientific paper, but to make a point, it would be maybe nice to show it somehow. In any case, it's important that you understand that your source material is at different levels, has different people wrote it for different target audiences. And when you use this material, first of all, make that clear that you understood the nature of the material when presenting, because whatever you present, either you put a claim and you give arguments, or you quote something or somebody. There's only these two options. You quote something as being established, and then a scientific source is obviously stronger than any blog post that's just there. And everything else that you are not quoting or referencing is something you claim, a hypothesis or a statement you want to show or you want to make people think about. I think it's like this, and my arguments are the following, and have a few sources. Adhere to academic standards, meaning do decent citations, make sure your material is cited, that it's clear where you took it from, and that it's not your own thought. But at the same time, be creative. I mean, there are a lot of interesting series, science fiction movies, all kinds of things that also so we had the idea, but it's just quite a lot of work to present 12 topics based on sci-fi 30-second trailers. But it would be nice to take a few movies apart and show 30 seconds to show some of the technologies we're talking about. Anyway, so I hope I could get the message across that you're quite free and we are quite flexible in what we accept as a contribution. We just want to see that you take it serious, that you try to work on like how you're supposed to work at ETH in general. But we are clear and we also accept non-academic sources. This is important to say because not everything is already went through detailed analysis in academia because it's too new. Blockchain is one of them. And we don't want to ignore all that material just because it's not yet in academia. And maybe you find a topic that's so new that it's interesting for you to pursue as a master thesis or even later on. A few books. Here again is Jeroen van den Hoven. Most probably I will make available 1 or 2 articles from that handbook because it's on methodology, on how you could present your analysis of certain topics. But there are also other interesting materials. Of course, Dirk has published a lot of stuff. Maybe you have heard of Homo Deus, a popular book, which is also interesting because it looks at how certain technology trends we have today could be evolving in this century. We have stuff about free software, Richard Stallman. We have Lawrence Lessig, the creator of Creative Commons. And a few other things. That's what Dirk has published on a... And these are blog posts. These are not scientific papers. But sometimes he just wants to get some messages across and puts them on a blog, and it's not a scientific paper, except there are exceptions. And they are really scientific. Okay, so homework. Identify an interesting topic and share it with all of us. So we know, so if several people are interested in AI, let's say, and you say, I want to look at, I don't know, face recognition or drones or whatever, and somebody else sees that and can also figure out. So we are not doing duplications, and we have a chance to really try to grasp and cover the different topics. So that Google Sheet here is sort of prepared with slots where you can write down your name. And I would say for the ones who are fast in deciding, maybe you can do that in the next few days. In general, we have at least time until Monday. We probably also have a bit more time, but it would help all of us to plan the semester if you could maybe come up with what you want to do until the weekend and put it in that Google Sheet. And on Monday, we try to finalize and see how the program for the semester looks like. And, sorry, that was the second link. And the first link is a long list. A long list means like 150 or something. A long list of different topics sorted by the 12 themes I just showed you. So different articles, videos, stuff. You just click on it, you have a look, and it should give you inspiration. You can also use them as source material, but it definitely gives you a starting point. Some areas, some domains have more links than others, but that should not irritate you. You can also do, of course, and we expect you to also do your own research. Take that as a starter. And we have something which I think is quite nice and not typical for university. So Dirk, together with a lady from the Netherlands, an author, so she was writing a science fiction based on ideas of Dirk, or in discussion with Dirk. And we decided to put the first few chapters of that novel on Medium. You guys know Medium, I guess? This Medium.com is some similar, well, sort of similar to WordPress, where people can write posts a little bit longer than Twitter, and also discuss. And what's interesting about it, you can highlight text and comment text inline, which is a feature I would like to use. A few comments have already been made of other people, but have a look at here. The first 6 chapters are available. They are rather short chapters. To give you a few more ideas and inspirations about technologies you could think about. It's a science fiction, but you would be surprised how close it is to today. All right, I think I said everything concerning the how-to. Do you guys have questions? Yeah, one and then please. Well, it's basically these links, and I will send that slide deck tonight. Yeah, I just didn't get it done before, but I will send it tonight, and all of the links are clickable, so you click there and you should have access. I have to check that once more, but I think that the Google Docs are open in the sense you can just go there. At the moment, I haven't set up a Moodle. Would you? Why do you ask? What would be?
I would like to, for example, get access to the slides before the class, or.
Yeah.
That will only happen for the first 2 lectures.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly that, and it will continue like that. That most probably, you will not. Also, for your colleagues, you will probably not receive slides well in advance. And it's true, it's for us, it's this week and the next week, and then there won't be any more slides from our side, except maybe some feedback stuff or so. Please?
I think the questions arise because
Say again?
The webpage for the course is not linked on VVZ. When I Googled it, I found it.
So there's, in VVZ, there's no link to the website, that's what you're saying. Okay. The website we have at COS ETH. Okay, thank you for I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. All right. But in any case, my usual thing is to send emails out and make sure people get the information. But yeah, I will check that. Okay. Other questions? So everything is clear. Then I can only suggest that, please.
I won't be able to attend all the lectures in March, for example.
Yeah.
Is it still possible to take part in the course?
Well, It depends a little bit of how often you will be absent. So we don't have a strict rule. So the default expectation is people will be there because it's the same time every week, and you sort of make space to attend before you register usually. But of course, people have other commitments and can miss a few times. I would say let's clarify that individually, how often that is and when, and of course it shouldn't be then when you have a presentation. Genau. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Then I can offer, if there are no more organizational questions, I can offer, because we have still a few minutes, that you discuss among yourselves or also all of us about what topics are interesting to you, or we skip that and you can leave and I send the emails like right now and you can click on them and look at them, all the materials, wherever you are. Second, rather than first. All right. So thanks for coming today. I hope to see all of you next week again. And yeah, choose something that interests you and make your fellow students also interested in the topic you choose. Thank you and have a good week.